If you are a business owner, you probably understand the fact of building a business from love. And if you're thinking about building a business, then this is probably a direction you want to really consider. So, our next guest is going to expand on building a business consciously and out of love. So, here we go.
Building spirituality, family, health, and business. This is The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.
Hey, Giant Builders, welcome. I am so excited that you're here because we have a wonderful guest. Her name is Andrea Austin. Hi, Andrea, how are you?
Very nice to meet you and super, super grateful that you reached out.
Oh,
Really,
thank you.
thank you.
Well, I always believe that God opens the doors for my speakers, so I don't really look very hard. God just kind of presents them in front of me. So that's pretty cool.
That makes sense to me because there's very few people that present, and there you were.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful.
Well, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
So I'll have some fun and give the contrast.
Okay, please.
Former tax accountant, CPA,
Okay.
but as now speaking, connecting, and talking about how do we create organizations and businesses more consciously. My language would be from love. Others might say from the resonance or the energy of God, to begin to start eroding some of the separation that exists in many organizations today. And so this all evolved because we have our own organization. It's called My Conscious Wellness, which is a representation of what I'm passionate about. It took me 7 years to try and explain what I mean by creating a business from love, which resulted in me getting my PhD. It feels like, in some, sort of an invitation through our own organization, which is humanitarian based, to invite in conversations and the resonance of that vibration with other people who are also seeking to facilitate change. Not sure that answered your question, but that was the closest I could do right now.
Oh, that's a lot. We have to break that
It
down.
was a lot, but I'm not a small being, so break
So, all
it
right,
down.
curious,
Take me
what's your PhD in?
in conscious business ethics.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah, it's particularly about the merger, let's call it, or the invitation to start merging both profit and nonprofit industry, start founding what we're doing more in love. And so it's a historical representation of where we've been and where I feel we are wanting to go.
okay. That part I got. So okay, expand for me a business by love. The first thing that
Mhm.
entered my mind is just the fact that you actually love what you're doing, but I'm not sure that that's what you actually mean.
Well, that's a big part of it for
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
But it does go a little farther than that. And that's where it's taken me time to try to articulate. And I'm not even sure that I have all the pieces yet. I mean, to me, this is part of the inner knowing of following what I'm being guided and led to do from my own passionate state. Nobody was more surprised than me at the age of 50 when this PhD presented itself. And I was like, what? I've done enough education. I'm not going there anymore. I mean, God, I have more schooling than most people I know. But it called me. So I think your first reflection is appropriate in the sense that it's finding what you love. And then, but what I was noticing as I journeyed for myself and then other people is that's often what facilitates. I'm assuming that's what started your podcast, right? But what I was witnessing for myself and other people is then when you start to build it, you start to template it into what people think it should be, how it should be marketed, how it should be sold, how you should price it, which is really funny coming from a former accountant, right? Like you got to find the Freudian pun in all of that. But when you talk about creating an organization from love, for me, it's keeping in the rhythm or the resonance or the vibration of what feels aligned within ourselves, and then watching who else shows up that feels the same way, rather than trying to force things to happen or put them into boxes or template them. Then that's predominantly what my personal exploration was, because I've always been curious, like, how did we get here? Like, how did we get to this place where business became all about making money? And yet I would sit next to somebody who works in a nonprofit who was serving beautiful beings and living at the poverty line. And I thought, this seems like distortion to me. It doesn't make sense. And so how do we merge these two worlds? And that's really what I mean when I say about creating an organization from love, where it's a win-win, it's abundance, it's creation, it's enjoyment. And I'm not saying we're going to get all there tomorrow. There might be some changes that we need, but it's that exploration that has me excited, and I get to do that in my own life, in our own way.
So is it specifically like nonprofit to business, or can it be just
It could
any
be
type of
anything,
business? It can be any
anything,
business.
anything, a creation, an idea. Because people get amazing ideas all the time, but
Mhm.
then they try to template them into the profit world, the nonprofit world. And it's still sort of, not saying I don't have a nonprofit, so it's pretty funny, but it's that we run too quick to thinking where it should be, instead of just continuing to create the idea, go with the idea, and then watch where some might say God or the cosmos or the energy wants to take it, rather than trying to force feed it into a system out of the gate.
It seems like it's just easier to template it so that you see something. So it seems like this is going to be more work to create it from love.
I'd say yes and no. I think the minute we try to template things, our minds believe that it's going to be easier. And I am very familiar with that pattern. But what we're not yet cognitively aware of, so I see this as part of evolution, right? Is that when we're templating, we're not actually following natural rhythm. So we're actually butting up against the natural order of life, which is reflected in nature all the time. But as a person or a human species, we're used to these templates. And so our minds think it's easier and we go there. But often I witnessed that our creations die. So that's not a bad thing. I mean, it happens and it's part of the evolution, right? Of learning to follow your own rhythm. But I think people, and generally women more than men, not all, know that natural rhythm. I mean, from a human perspective, we're generally the ones that have given birth. So there's that rhythm or that fluidity or that knowing inside of us that we're not as used to listening to, especially when it comes to business, right? It's been well trained out of myself.
I mean, it's all the books and everything else,
Yep.
it's just like, so is this more of a like creating a more intentional mindset, or it's like, how do I find my rhythm?
That's going to mean different things to different people.
Okay.
Finding your rhythm. Well, I give you a good example. It's funny,
Okay.
actually. I met a woman once who ended up incarcerated in a federal state prison. Amazing woman. She's actually interviewed on Oprah.
Oh.
She ended up there actually by accident. She wasn't guilty at all. But while she was there, because of her education, she was asked to start facilitating groups that helped women get more educated. And she said to me, "What's the most common thing that she learned while she was there is every single woman that was incarcerated had an inner knowing that the choice they made was the wrong one, but they did it anyway." And so the simplest answer is listening to that part of ourselves, even though it may butt up against, our partners or our children or decision makers. And that's a process that's unique for everyone. Yeah, that's how I'd answer that question.
Okay. So how do you help somebody find that direction?
I would say, first off, by example. I've learned to share and articulate what I'm seeing in census and apply that in the business and nonprofit space as best I can. I don't necessarily coach people, it's more of a conversation. And within that, offering different possibilities, I've started sharing my own recordings, funnily, where I just go into reflection space where I can start to bridge what I would call the templated world, which I'm very familiar with. I mean, I read the Income Tax Act, so you cannot get more templated than that, right? And then I start to bridge, what does that look like? What does that feel like? Because I sense that as we can even take little micro steps, like it's not like, oh, this is the end game. That's not what I'm saying. But little micro steps to start changing how we operate, then that actually influences others without us actually having to say anything. Because this goes really to the core of our work, which is sound and frequency and vibration. And so we each carry that essence within ourselves. And so I see it more like a remembering, a process of just following our hearts instead of our minds.
So, all right. So what automatically kind of popped in my head is like, say, a situation like somebody who's had a business for a long time, or maybe they inherited a business from a family member. Can they still work into this love area or, you know?
Well, I think anything is possible. I'm definitely the eternal optimist. I think that anybody can make a choice
Mhm.
to start heading in a direction that feels more aligned for themselves. Sometimes that will mean that certain things need to fall away, which for some of us who like to control, and I'm putting my hand up, right, is a problem because the mind wants to freak out. But if you look at nature, nature knows when certain things need to die. It's just part of the natural evolution.
Mhm.
And so I think anybody who has an existing organization that feels called to start heading in this direction, to me, it's a significant opportunity as a whole.
So is there a tie into this spiritually?
On many levels, yes, because what I'm talking about is co creating with spirit, recognizing that both the physical and the non physical are actually working together in tandem. And from my language, that wants to be anchored in that resonance of love, meaning that space where we can learn to accept and love one another, reduce the amount of separation, to co-elevate one another.
Okay.
And so that's sort of, to me, the inner knowing or the inner space of where we were designed to operate from. And so that's really the invitation. You got it.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to share your contact information below. What are we going to find on your website?
So one web link would be the representation of our organization as a whole, which will show the dedication to humanity's evolution through love for us using sound and frequency. The other link is more specific to me and my journey and how I ended up here, and more of a flavor of what I'm talking about. There's a few auditory audios, not videos, that people can listen to, because for many people, this topic won't make sense. I get a lot of cross-eyed looks. I've learned to have to be okay with that. But those audios are more like something to sit with and just listen to and to see if anything opens up.
Okay. So if there's like one point of advice that you would give to people, what advice would you give them to take the next step or get started?
Interestingly, it would be choose themselves. Choose what's lighting up your heart. Choose that as your dedication. Choose your dedication to living your own life.
That
That's
can
how I
be
got
hard
here.
sometimes.
Oh, I understand
Yeah.
completely. Completely. Like, I'm not saying that's an easy path, but that's what got me here. That's how the organization of my life has grown. And my life has never been more full.
Hmm.
And that dedication, which I acknowledge is not been an easy one, is rich, much more than we realize.
Great. Maybe it's just me, but I'm still confused.
And that's common.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's why sometimes I hesitate
Uh-huh.
because what I'm sharing can't be understood. Even for me to write my paper, to
Uh-huh.
articulate our organization has taken me over 14 years. And so I'm very aware that what I'm saying is leading edge.
Hmm.
Most people will not understand, but at our core, I have a knowing that people will understand it in another way because it's more like an invitation to change that most people aren't ready to hear or see. So it puts me at the forefront of a very intriguing space. So I'm sometimes hesitant or cautious, but I also trusted when you reach out and thought, all right, because my journey has been to, I call it surrender, to where my voice wants to be heard without people understanding. And it's taken me
Okay.
the former tax accountant in me freaks out, right? Because I'm like, I could explain tax law. How could I not? But it's a journey.
Uh-huh.
I'm very aware that most of my work will likely not be understood, hun, for a couple hundred years. It's very clear to me,
Okay.
and being okay with that.
Well, yeah, that's great. But I guess I'm still not sure how to incorporate it to me. Like, how would I participate in this business from love?
It depends on what you're desiring. So there's two elements to the work. My paper is very clear that the most important aspect of creating a business from love is deep love of self.
Okay.
And so most of us don't love ourselves in all transparency. Very familiar. And so there's an aspect of our work in the organization that helps people begin to use sound and frequency to love themselves on a personal level, to help clear some of the patterns, I call them, of distortion that are just naturally common in our field. So it depends on where people want to go, right? That's why there's two elements to our work. One is the sound and frequency work. And then the other is just a conversation with me. Because if they're really desiring to change the way they do business, I have no idea where that will go unless they're willing to have a conversation. It isn't something I can template, which
Yeah.
is really hard.
Yeah.
I'd love to, but it doesn't work that way. And so the essence of the other part of my work just simply says it's a conversation because I'm starting to meet people who wish to start facilitating doing business differently. And so I'm starting to find those people. And all I can see is having conversation. I can't get past that.
Yeah.
Getting to know each other. What does that look like? What does that mean to you? I'm not clear yet on how to facilitate that because obviously what I'm saying is not for everyone and
Yeah.
it's hard for people to receive. So I get that very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any closing thoughts?
And no, just a gratitude and a willingness for you to connect with people and have conversation and allow other people to hear unique conversations that, yeah, we don't all understand. and being okay with that, because that's what I see from a giant builder's perspective, is being more comfortable in the unknown more and more.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing. We're going to have a
You're
deeper
welcome.
conversation.
Anytime, hon.
Okay.
You can find me. I would be honored. I really
Okay.
would. Okay.
All right, Giant Builders, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.